The Effects of Child Abuse and Neglect is brought to you by Texel, your credit union, with locations in Temple, Belton, and Killeen. Visit us at texel.org.
May the face of the Lord shine on you. May He shower His blessing on all that you do. May you never know anguish, sorrow, or strife. Dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of your life.
Howdy, I'm Sue Ellen Jackson, and this is Aware Central Texas, Effects of Child Abuse and Neglect. You're going to want to stay with us for the next few minutes. We're going to be talking about something that we really don't want to hear about. It's sexual abuse. We're going to be looking at families that sexually abuse their children. We're going to be hearing from a couple of ladies. They're going to share their story and what happened to them growing up. And we also have with us a very special young lady. Her name is Meredith Miller. Hi, Meredith.
Hello.
Welcome. Meredith is a school counselor, and she sees these children that are sexually abused. And she has some things to share with us about that. I grew up in this wonderful family. I had the Beaver Cleaver life, but I grew up with a sense of shame. I didn't know where it came from. And years later, after my mother had passed away, I was sitting down at the table with one of my mother's sisters, and she unfolded this chilling story of incest in our family line. It was 2 generations back. And all of a sudden, I understood why I carried with me this burden of shame that had nothing to do with me. It was something that I had
Given to you.
inherited without even knowing what it was. I'm very thankful my parents were careful to protect us. They overprotected us. And still, I still had that burden. And it's so strange, but that's kind of the nature of abuse. But when you're dealing with sexual abuse, you're dealing with something that is insidious, and it robs children of their innocence, and it is a curse, and it affects them for the rest of their life. And if you're somebody that has a secret, maybe you don't even remember it until this moment, be brave. Go ahead and talk about it. Tell somebody. Call us at Aware Central Texas. That number is 254-939-7582. Meredith, what do these kids look like, these little sexually abused kids?
It really depends on the stage of the abuse. They look like every other kid for the most part.
Yeah.
Until you realize they're the kid that's always overly sexual. A first grader that knows way too much, does way too much touching, either of themselves or of the boys. Then the more you talk to them, you realize they refer to body parts as like prize words, a treasure. You know, kids identify body parts with whatever their parents tell them.
Right.
But then when they become treasures or the special spot, that somebody told them that.
Right.
Generally. So what you see a lot, the first clue for me is just over-sexualization of a small child who knows too much, who talks about too much, who acts just a little more. And it's hard now in this society when our kids are exposed to more than they were before.
Right.
Our kids are exposed to what's on regular TV that before would have been a rated R movie. So you know, once you speak to them, that's when it comes out that they know a lot, way more than your average first, second, third grader would know.
That's so sad. And so then you as a guidance counselor, you're going to be compelled to deal with that. And now you're talking about a whole new set of challenges.
Right.
Because there's so much shame and there's so much secrecy.
There is with older
connected with
kids.
that. Really?
Younger kids, they know it's probably not right, but it's all they know. Older kids, especially older females, they know the shame and the secrecy, and that's when you see the lack of eye contact and weight gain, because they want to not be attractive. They don't want to be seen by anyone. So if we just gain weight and look down, nobody will look at us or mess with us.
Wow. So they're actually building a protective shield around their
And you'll see that with preteens and teenage girls.
Wow. Let's hear from Vicki.
Okay.
Vicki is a lovely lady that has got a story. So let's hear what she says.
I am the oldest in a family of 6 children. I am the only child from a first marriage. And my stepfather never really adjusted to the fact that I came along with the package deal. So that made life for me really difficult. The family was a very dysfunctional family. My birth family, as in stepfather. He wasn't physically abusive, but my mother was. But he was very verbally abusive to everybody, but especially to me, because he really didn't accept me until I was an adult. Also, he was, when I turned around 12 years of age, he'd start sneaking into my room, touching me inappropriately, and it was horrible, terrifying actually. And I was, my heart's pounding. I couldn't let him know I was awake, which I think is very typical of children. So I just try and stir, you know, trying to let him know, hey, I'm awake, I'm waking up, go away. And of course, he finally would. So because I was too afraid to address it, I would try to stay awake. I'd try and wrap myself in my sheets, pin them. And you know what is amazing as a child, you don't realize they have to know. But he'd still sneak in the room and try and get into the sheets. So after a time, of course, it's so exhausting, so exhausting. I finally told my mother, and her reaction was, well, I thought she'd faint. And she said, well, don't tell anybody. And then she said, well, Vicki, that happens to all girls. So anyways, issues like that are, the shame and the pain are carried by the victim, and they should be carried by the victimizer. And I think only in speaking out does that ever change. And I guess my telling it today, my goal is to try and help others that are victims to turn that around, because we have to turn it around. If we don't, then, you know, generation after generation, there will be silence. And I never spoke out until after he died. And, you know, it shouldn't be that way. You have to change things today so that tomorrow's will be new and better for the children of today. And that's why I became a foster parent. And I hope to make life better for for other children than they were for me.
You heard Vicki saying that she told her mother, and her mother said it happens to all little girls, and to keep it secret. Is that something that happens, Meredith, a lot with family members that are sexually abusing children?
Well, yes, because they don't want anyone in the community to know that.
Right.
So the dad is, or the male, it may not be the father, the male, the uncle, the brother, the dad, they are telling that child, don't you tell a soul. And then if the child somehow finds the courage to go against that and tell the mother, initially it may be shock, and the mother doesn't want everyone in the community to know what the man in her life or her son or her brother has done to her daughter. So then just by being uneducated, kind of an ignorance, don't you tell anyone. And then the child then knows, hold up, this is real wrong, and I better not say a thing. So then it continues on because we don't want anyone to know. Just like you don't want anyone to know you have a bad disease, they don't want anyone to know that this is going on in their house.
Right.
And what if the cops come, and what if CPS comes and takes my kids away? Even if they're doing the right thing, they don't want that, they are afraid of that.
Right. And so they kind of lose their childhood right then and there. And now they're taking a hit for the family.
Yes, and it will continue. Even
Right.
if mom is told, the statistics show that if mom is aware of it, it does not deter the man unless criminal action has taken, because we're talking about a sexual predator.
Right.
Who, when he does get in trouble, it's just a timeout. So it'll just continue until the child figures out for themselves how to stop it.
You're doing some research right now on incarcerated women and women that have abused their children. What are you learning about that?
A lot of the women who abuse their own children, whether it be male children or female children, came from a cycle of abuse themselves.
Sure.
This is what my mother or father did to show me how everything works. So I'm just doing a favor to my child. This is what you're supposed to do. This is how it's done, because this is how it was done before. And so they don't really see anything wrong with it, because it's how it works. That's how it's supposed to be.
Is there any culture in the universe that believes that? Or is this just some dirty, dark thing that happens universally? I wonder.
I think it happens universally, but when looking at the makeup of, say, incarcerated or registered female sex offenders, from what I have determined so far, very low income, very low educated. They're generally like stay-at-home moms. The man in the house is the only money provider. That's just from the research that I've done in Texas. And that's also only on the ones that we have that have been caught.
Right.
It's difficult to catch a mother in normal mothering duties. So,
So you think, well, you know, mommy gives the kids a bath,
right,
and you don't think anything about that.
right,
But if daddy is the bath giver, there's always that little question
Right.
or little
right,
thought for a lot of us.
right.
And I wonder, and I bet you don't know this, but I just wonder how many moms are sexually abusing their kids.
Oh, I'm sure the number is much higher than we think.
Yeah.
Because why would you think that? It's a mother.
Right. It's just
and
the
we're more
unthinkable.
inclined to think a dad would be willing to do that, or an uncle, and a lot of what I see in the school is the 11-year-old female cousin who is abusing the 7-year-old female cousin.
Yeah.
Curiosity, maybe, or maybe she herself is being abused by whoever is in that house. That's a lot of the family abuse that I see. Well, that's much easier to sweep under the rug than a grown man.
Sure.
So then we have these cousins, you know, same sex, opposite sex, abusing the younger ones. They just go off somewhere else. I see that a lot in the school systems.
When does it become abuse? I mean, you know, kids are naturally curious.
Right.
And you don't think anything about a mom taking a bath with a toddler. You would definitely think something about a mom taking a bath with a 13-year-old.
Right.
When does it stop being appropriate? And I think maybe, I don't know, but I'm thinking that maybe sometimes people just use poor judgment, and it exposes children to too much too soon.
Right.
And then, of course, there are the predatory
Yes.
parents.
And in the family situation, you think only touching is sexual abuse, and that is not the case.
Right.
Allowing or forcing a child to view pornography, to watch something on TV even that is a little too advanced for them, or acting the acts themselves while the child is witnessing, that's all sexual abuse.
Right.
So, you know, I've said before, I have 3 male children. I'm very locked doors and all of that because they're all to the age now that they don't need to see the different female form, you know, in that.
Well, and they'd probably for sure notice too.
Right, they do. And my youngest one is 9. So, and it was probably about 5 that you realize, okay, he can do all of his business on his own. So unless he needs to help, you know, he can take his own shower, his own bath.
Right.
So I would say, you know, if it's beyond that age of where they're physically able to take care of themselves, I would be alarmed if I saw it in someone else's house.
Yeah, it would be a red flag. I know at our house we have 6 grandchildren, and a lot of times they'll come and spend the night, and we do this thing called privacy. And if they go in the bathroom, I can hear them shut the door and say, "Privacy!" And they were with us a lot, and when they were little, and I was helping them bathe, that sort of thing, and now they're bigger and I don't do that anymore, but they'll still say, "Graham, come here and scrub my back." But my husband has always been very careful to extend that privacy rule.
Right.
And when grandsons and granddaughters are in there together, we say, show this other person that you love them by respecting them and giving them privacy, and don't look at their private areas. Anything that's under their bathing suit is their very private area.
Right.
And show them respect and love, and you know, look away, or you know. So that's how we deal with it. But I know that there is a fine line there.
There is. And we are probably more attuned to that as professionals in the field, where we see it way more frequently than, for instance, my sister.
Right.
We have 5 boys and 1 girl in our nieces and nephews and all of that.
Is she a tomboy?
She is. She thinks she's a boy.
Sure.
But my sister will say, "Oh, y'all go get in the bath." No, they're 7 and 9. Bath time for, you know, mixed genders is over at this point. But my sister is just clueless to it because she's not exposed to what's out there.
The negative effects.
She's not exposed to that. And so when I say, no, our kids are too old for community bathing now. It was cute when they were 3.
Yeah.
But now it's too old. Bodies are changing, you know, and kids, like I said before, are well aware of things earlier than we would like for them to be aware of things.
I had a doctor tell me, and you probably have more knowledge of this, is that children that are exposed to sexual things early on, their bodies actually develop faster. That just blows my mind.
We've had kids start menstruating in 2nd grade.
Oh,
And
goodness.
that's a trigger right there that there is some abuse going on, because, I mean, at the biological standpoint, sexual activity is intended for procreation.
Right.
So if you're talking about an 8-year-old child who doesn't have that, but yet these things are happening, we have to get this body ready to bear a child.
Right.
So you start seeing the breast and the hair growth and the hormone increase, and it's not at all uncommon anymore to see children menstruating 2nd, 3rd grade, which is crazy to us.
That just really blows my mind.
Who 10 years ago it was 13, 14
Right.
years old. Now it's 7, 8 is not uncommon, and that's, I think, overall exposure.
Wow. For a mom that is sexually abusing her son, what are some of the possible consequences of that child's life?
Well, negative attachments, which
Yeah.
could create a criminal background or the inability to ever form attachments in relationships, whether it be, with a teacher or a friend or a spouse, and then the chance for them to offend themselves and be offenders, whether it be kids that they have or know, is very great when they've been abused themselves.
Wow. Judy is going to share her story with us, and it's a little bit different from Vicki, but we're going to see some parallels. So let's hear what Judy has to say about her growing up days.
Hi, my name's Judy, and I was sexually abused as a child. The first time was by a man that we called Uncle Charlie. I don't think he was related to us, that's just what we called him. And I remember 3 specific incidents that happened. I was about 5 or 6 at that time. And then later, when I was 9 or 10, then my father started sexually abusing me. And that lasted until I was 15. I didn't know it at the time. My older sister had gotten married against Daddy's wishes. She was 16, and he did not want her to get married. And I found out many years later that he had been sexually abusing her. And then when I was 15, I got my driver's license, and that provided me with a means of escape. And if I knew that Mother was not going to be there, I would find something else that I had to do. Mother was very active in volunteer work. And she was gone a lot of times because of the volunteer work. The one thing that saddens me is that when I found out about my older sister, I also found out that when I started escaping, then he started with my younger sister. And that's always made me feel a little bit guilty, because maybe there was something I could have done to have protected her. But that's just guilt talking, and I know it. Because now as an adult, when I look at it, I know that I was just a child. Even at 15, I was still just a kid, and I had no control over what my father did. We were raised in a pretty strict house. If Daddy said jump, we said how high, sir. We were just taught not to question things. I could not have survived if I had not known Jesus Christ. He was my salvation. When I was 18, well, I accepted Christ as Savior when I was young, but when I was 18, I don't know why God gave me the wonderful man that I married, but He gave me a man that is compassionate and gentle and understanding. And the last 44 years, He has given me all that I need. When I pull back, He waits for me. And I know that's a reflection of my Heavenly Father. And I didn't have a father like that growing up. And David's not a father figure, but I have seen Christ's love in him.
If you're watching this show and you're holding a family secret, and somebody told you to keep that a secret, let it go. You can call us, you can get on the internet and look for resources, but it's going to plague you the rest of your life, and it's going to go to the next generation and the next and the next if you don't put a stop to it. If you were sexually abused as a child, it was not your fault. Even if it was not an unpleasant experience, our bodies are wired to respond to sexual touches. It was still not your fault, and you really need to get help. And you can call us at 254-939-7582. Meredith, Judy had quite a story, didn't she?
She did, and she really had a story that pressed the family secrets. All
Right.
of her siblings, every one of them, and he just replaced one with the next. And they never told anyone because they were scared of their dad, which you see that a lot with with the father being the abuser. They'll treat them almost poorly every day. You know, you will do this, and very demanding and very controlling, and then go in their room at night. So the little girls get mixed signals. I'm bad, I'm good, what is it? And everybody wants to please their dad.
Right.
So
Especially little girls.
those girls stayed quiet so as not to disrupt their father, and they didn't realize it was happening to their siblings also until they were older and they were able to talk about it.
I'm so tempted to get so angry about that, but I'm understanding that it's a generational thing, and I'm not letting them off the hook, but there was probably something done to them that broke their ability to make good judgments and be the dad that they should have been for those children.
And the positive is that Judy herself said she was able to break it.
Yes. That is the good news. You can break this cycle.
May the face of the Lord shine on you. May He shower His blessing on all that you do. May you never know anguish, sorrow, or strife. Dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of your life.
The effects of child abuse and neglect is brought to you by Texel, your credit union, with locations in Temple, Belton, and Killeen. Visit us at texel.org.